Well, good morning. My name is Charlene Shupp Espenshade. I am the executive director here at the Pennsylvania Friends of Agriculture Foundation. I want to begin by saying thank you so much for joining our Remake learning event today, which is called Farmer Friday, a visit with dairy farmer William Thiele to learn about drones. We are switching our program up just a little bit today because we're on a farm and weather can be a little bit of an adventure. So what we're going to do is go ahead and turn it over to William right away so he can demonstrate his drone. We want you to be able to see it and then we'll talk about it. So with that, William, I will go over and turn things over to you.
All right, thanks. So like Charlene said, because of weather, I'm going to take off first before it starts raining any more here. But I don't know if you can tell, it's sprinkling a little bit, and I want to show you guys the drone in the air. So it'll take a minute or two here to get this up and going. But something that you really have to be mindful of with drones is the weather, of course. And whether it's rain, snow, wind, hail, stuff like that, you have to be very weather conscious. And right now the weather it's okay, I'll put it that way. So the main thing you have to be mindful of is wind, of course, because the wind can obviously wreak havoc on a drone. So I'm going to get flying here, and then I will show you guys all the parts of the drone and everything. But I'll show you what I'm looking at here. I got my drone sitting on the driveway. You can see it's starting to rain a little bit here. But usually whenever I take it off, I sit it on that box. That's the box that I store it in. And I usually take it off on that box because, sometimes you can get an updraft of wind and it can actually blow it over. So I always, for safety reasons, I put it on that box. So I'm going to take off. I actually need two hands to take off. So I will put my phone down and I will take off before it starts raining a little too much. So give me a second here. I'll keep talking as I go. So I'm about to take off. All right, I'm up in the air. All right, so I'll show you the drone up in the air here. You can probably hear the buzzing. See, the drone is very, very steady for the most part. Kind of wiggles a little bit, but yeah, the drone stays fairly steady in most wind. Obviously, if I'm out here in the middle of a hurricane, that's a different story. But that's the drone hovering right there. So I want to go up in the air a little bit to show you guys what it looks like from way up in the air. So give me a second here. All right, I am up in the air right now. I doubt you can hear it now. Maybe you can. It's straight above me if you see that little black dot up there. But I'll show you on my screen. This is the controller. Hope you can see that. But that's what I'm looking at currently. I'm looking kind of down on top of me. But that's roughly my farm. There you can see some of the buildings in the barn and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things going on this screen that I would want to show you. It shows how high I am, how the distance away, the GPS signal, how much battery I have left, all that stuff, which is vitally important. And so you can see the battery level up in the top right, 97%. And you can probably see the cows in the pasture. Yeah, there's cows in there. But yeah, so if I pan up here, you can see some of our fields that we farm here. And so that's what I would look at roughly. This is my screen. This is a built-in screen. You can see on this controller, it does not come off because if I did not have a screen like this, I'd have to use the phone that I'm currently using, and that wouldn't work. So I have a built-in screen on this. So All right, so I'm gonna hurry up and land here. So I want to take it back to Charlene to do some more introductions. And while she is doing that, I'm going to land and I will dismantle the drone, take the props off and stuff, and I will showcase to you guys what else the drone does, all the features it has, and how I use it for agriculture. So Charlene, I'll send it back to you.
All right, thank you so much, William. And like I said, I'm so glad we got to do that because I know that's the most exciting part of the experience is to actually see the drone in action. So as we move on to some other pieces, a question for all of our teachers and students. We're wondering how many of you have ever been on a dairy farm? If you have or haven't, answer in the chat. We'd like to see how many of you have. And while you're answering that question, I'd like to make a couple of quick introductions. The first one I do want to say is we are fortunate enough to have President of the Pennsylvania Friends of Agriculture Foundation, Rick Ebert, who is another dairy farmer from Western Pennsylvania. He is with us, and I'm excited to be able to join us. He's also a dairy farmer, so he'll make a quick wave, but I'm real excited to have him with us today. And also we have Yuling Cheng from Remake Learning, and I know Yuling would like to say a little bit about Remake Learning, and then we have one more introduction to make. So Yuling, I'll let you go ahead and make a quick intro as well.
Great, thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Yuling Cheng. I'm the co-producer of Remake Learning Days across America. I'm personally excited about today's event, and I already have questions in my mind. Remake Learning Days is a joyful celebration of learning. We have more than 1,500 events across the US, and in the state of Pennsylvania alone, we have nearly 400 events, half of them of which are part of the Career Ready PA program. So thank you to the Pennsylvania Friends of Agriculture Foundation for hosting an event. It's one of the more unique events that we have on the calendar, and we just appreciate everything that you're doing. So thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much. And our last introduction before we turn it back over to William to learn more about his drone is we are also happy to have with us Dr. David Volkman, Acting Deputy Secretary of the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education, and want to welcome him for a few words.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's really great for me to be here today. First of all, you all get to meet with a sixth-generation dairy farmer, Bill Thiele. That's amazing. Or as we know him affectionately, I guess, as the drone guy, which is important, who actually showed us his drone and is going to be talking about that. For the Department of Education, I think the important thing for us to know is the fact that the link to Remake Learning is so important to us because it helps us help you, teachers and students, know about the paths to real employment opportunities across the state of Pennsylvania, which is critically important for us, and the STEM skills that future students are going to be needing for all of these careers that are coming your way. So I look forward to getting back and hearing a little bit about the drone and all the good work that Bill Thiele has done. So thank you very much for having me.
All right, well, thanks so much. I'm going to go ahead and turn things back over to Cassidy, who is our hostess for this whole event, so she can go over some tips and tricks and then get back to William. So Cassidy, William, I will turn things back over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cassidy. I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping things first. So throughout this session, if you're a participant, your audio and video is off. So in order to communicate, we do have the chat, and just make sure if you want something to be seen by everyone, the little drop down says to everyone. Now later on, we will have the opportunity to ask William questions. If you have a question for him, please drop it in the Q&A box, not in the chat. That'll just help us find them and make sure we get to all of them better. So with that, let's hand it back over to William.
All righty, I'm back again. So funny thing is that the rain quit as soon as I came in here, but hey, that's farming. So when I'm in my machinery shed, you can kind of tell behind me, you can see some equipment behind me, but But I want to give a quick shout out to Butler Area School District. I believe my aunt is listening. So hi, Aunt Dora. So thought I'd give a shout out. But so I'm in my machinery shed here. I brought all my drone stuff in here. So I'll show you what I got sitting here. I got it sitting on the trailer. There's some fertilizer here, but it works. So here's my drone. I got the box that I took off on. So if you see this box here, it's a nice styrofoam box. It says DJI Phantom. DJI is the brand name. The Phantom is basically the model. And this is a Phantom 4 Pro Plus. Plus meaning this, the screen on it, like I said before. So this box carries all of my drone, the copter, the controller, extra batteries, everything. So I have 2 extra batteries you can see here. This is the battery here. It weighs, oh, I'd say it weighs about half a pound-ish. So usually turn the battery on, it has that on there. So that shows how much battery life is left. So in this box, I have extra blades or props, as they call them, propellers, props, same thing. So I got extra props in there. I have the props already attached on here. And I got my controller here. And another thing we need to be mindful of when we fly is that, especially with what I do, I have an actual pilot's license, which is what this is. I want to put it on here so you guys can see this. But this is my actual pilot's license. I actually got this through the FAA. And I got this back in 2017. Yeah, it says that right on there. So, so I have a, this is a license says UAS, Unmanned Aerial System or Unmanned Aerial Vehicle, UAV. And so you would need one of these if you were going to fly it commercially. When I say commercially, I mean actually making money or going on other people's property. Now, if you're on your own property, that's a different story. You don't really need to. But since I do a lot of presentations like with this, it's best that I have a license. So I have a license. So I just thought I would really briefly show that to you. So now to the actual drone itself. So this drone, otherwise known as a UAV, a UAS, quadcopter, there's so many names for it, but simply put, we just call it a drone. So, so this drone here, DJI Phantom 4, this is the back of it. This is where the battery is. You can see that there. These are the props here. The thing about these props, this prop here, this prop up here, they turn the same direction. These two spin the opposite direction of these two. So you can see this one has like a black ring. This one has a gray ring. That's to show which one to put it on because they have a different angle, different pitch. Because if they all spun the same direction, it would just plow itself into the ground. So we have that to keep it stable. And so that's the point of those. These props, they do what they call a pop-on feature. They push down and then you twist them a quarter turn and then they pop right off. That's the way this particular drone is designed. So I'll turn it to the front here. So this, what I'm looking at here, this is the camera, or the mechanism on it is otherwise known as a gimbal. And I actually have a lens on it. That's that black ring on it. That's a neutral density filter lens to filter out overexposure. But that is the camera there. Currently the drone is off, so it kind of lays there kind of limp like that. But if it was on, he'd be looking right at me. But this gimbal, it goes down like this, straight down and up. It does not turn. The entire copter turns whenever you're up in the air. So like if I was having the drone pointed at me, the drone would be, the camera would be looking straight out of these legs here. It'd be looking straight out. And if I wanted to turn to the left or right, the whole entire copter turns. So that's because if it did that, you would get these legs in the way of the picture and everything. So that's the point of that. So other features on this drone, you can see there's these little dots in the front here. Those are obstacle avoidance sensors. And the obstacle avoidance sensors are very similar to a backup camera in your car. There's also side obstacle avoidance, which is these black ones, and on the back. which is rear obstacle avoidance sensors. So what happens with that, very similar to a car backup camera, is that if I got this drone too close to something like a tree, a car, a building, or something for myself, the controller would actually come up and it'll say, hey, you're getting a little too close. It'll actually stop itself. I'm not exactly in the, not exactly going to go and try to fly this through a building and see if it'll stop itself anytime soon, but it's supposed to do that. But like, for instance, whenever I was flying out there earlier, I was walking around the drone. The drone was catching that there was an object, meaning me, right beside it. So it started kind of beeping and yelling and screaming at me. I don't know, you maybe have heard that. The controller started to yell at me saying, hey, there's something getting close to it. So the controller will actually start yelling at you saying, hey, you know, get away from a certain object. So that's one really neat feature that drones do, especially the newer ones. They have obstacle avoidance like that. Now, you're probably going to ask, does it stop itself like in a power line or something? I'm going to doubt that it does. That's another theory I'm not going to test, but I try to stay away from power lines. But that's something I don't think it will catch simply because it's a little too small. Same with like trees with no foliage. I don't know if it'll catch that unless if there's a lot of it. But nonetheless, that's a neat feature that these drones have. So another thing probably notice is I have a sticker on the top here, has a bunch of letters and numbers on it. That is my FAA registration number. There is a current law from the FAA that you have to put your registration number on the outside of the copter. And so that is why I have this sticker on here. That is a fairly new regulation as of a few years ago. They had you put this on the outside in the case of if I was to crash it and somebody found that they could immediately look up this number via the FAA database and say, hey, that's William Thiele's drone, I better return it to him. So that's the point of having a registration number like that. So another thing on the copter is that the way it captures video and images is that it has an SD card, which is right here by my thumb. It's a mini SD card, you can see that. It goes right into that slot there. And so that is where it captures all of the data. And you can see on there, it is a SanDisk Extreme, 64 gig. It has to use a SanDisk Extreme. Any of you that know anything about cameras and stuff like that, that is a very high resolution, high quality SD card because this drone has such high quality images and videos that it needs something to basically keep up with it. So I always buy SanDisk Extremes because I've put another one in it before and it will say it's not compatible. So I always have to buy those. That's why we have such great image and video quality with this. So that is the basics of that copter there. So now I'll turn to the controller here. So the controller, which I was using earlier to fly that you saw, this is the main screen here. I have this lanyard on here. I put it around my neck so I don't have to sit it somewhere. So I literally let it hang on my neck. I know it says Air Force. I thought it was appropriate, but so this controller, like I said before, the screen is attached. These are the two antennas right here. So for instance, if I was flying and I was going that direction, I would point the antennas towards the intended direction I was flying, not the opposite way, because you can get obstruction, like you yourself can be an obstruction, and so can trees and buildings and stuff like that. So you always have to point in the direction that you are flying. So on the rest of the controller here, we have these two joysticks here, very similar to playing video games. That's what I did a lot as a kid. I played video games. I played Xbox a lot. So it's very, very similar. So naturally, it kind of came second nature to me to learn how to use the joysticks. But you can switch the which joystick does what. I mean, I have my personal preference on which one does what. But you know, currently I have this one having the copter go up, down, twist to the left, right, and then this one's forward, backward, pitch to the left and right with that one. And so on the side here, You can see this red button, that is to start recording video. There is this little switch here. Right now it says it's on P mode. There's S and A. P mode means it's on GPS mode, which is what I was on earlier. S means sport mode. Sport mode is whenever it takes all GPS signal out and you can fly really, really fast. You're probably going to ask, how fast does it go? I've had this drone with a tailwind go about 50 mile an hour. I know that sounds incredibly fast because it is, but I don't normally use it too much. And the last mode on here, it says A, that is known as attitude mode. That's when it takes all the signal out and all the GPS signal that it takes. And that is usually whenever you're flying indoors. And when I say indoors, I don't mean in your living room. I mean in a very, very large room. I mean, I don't know if my machinery shed is that big to fly in here, but it would be something to use if you were inside that you cannot capture GPS signals. So, and then this little dial here, that makes the gimbal that I showed you, the camera, go up and down, that one. So the opposite side here, there's this button to take pictures. You can probably hear it beeping. This gimbal here adjusts settings on the camera. And then there's a pause button to stop or pause the video. So now I'll show you what is inside here. I did not take any of these pictures, just so you know. I couldn't take those good photos. But so this is a screen I look at. It is roughly about as big as my phone. And on here, I would go enter device. Obviously, the drone is not connected because it's not on. You can see it says aircraft disconnected. So the first thing I want to do, no matter where I'm flying, if I'm on my farm, on my friend's farm, or anywhere, the first thing I do is I look at this map. I'll show you where I clicked on. This bottom left-hand corner, this shows my location. All right, you can see my location where the red arrow is. Now, if I zoom out here, now you see all of these kind of butterscotch colored circles. That right there is the Butler County Airfield. And so you can see how there's blue and it's a darker kind of a yellow color in there. That is a no-fly zone, obviously, because it's an airport and you don't want to fly in there. The FAA says you should not fly within a 5-mile radius of an airport, even a smaller relative airport like Butler Airfield there. So quick story, I did try to take off in this darker yellow circle, not because I wanted to, you know, say I could do it, but I legitimately was trying to fly there, and I was right about where my thumb is, and I tried to take off, and the drone physically would not turn on. It came up and said, "You are in a no-fly zone, you cannot take off." And I was like, dang it, I can't take off. So I couldn't do it. So that is a safety feature that at least the DJI drone has, is that you cannot take off inside of there. So yeah, there are some farmers that I know of that live in that circle that I physically can't fly to their place. I mean, it sucks, I know, but they live basically underneath of an airport. So even here, I mean, you can see where my location is relative to the airport. We get a lot of low-flying aircraft here, and that's something that I really need to be on the lookout for. Even when I was getting ready here, there were several small low-flying aircraft that flew over. So that's something that you have to be very mindful of. There's other circles in here. These lighter color ones you can take off in, but they are just kind of warning places. A lot of warning places consist of a hospital with a helipad, a military installation. I know the Butler County Courthouse, you can't fly over that. You can't fly over the county prison. There's other places that I probably haven't mentioned that you can't fly over, but some of them it's kind of obvious. Like for instance, the entire DC metro area is a no-fly zone for obvious reasons. So yeah, that's something that's usually the first thing I look at. If I'm going to fly somewhere else, I immediately need to know location and is there airports nearby. So that's one of the main things that you absolutely need to know whenever you fly. So this right here is what I would be looking at. You probably saw earlier if you saw through the raindrops there. But all this stuff on the top is important information. I know it says aircraft disconnected there, but I guess I could turn it on and I'll show you. It'll just make some noise and everything. But he does a little dance there. So you can see right here on the top, you can see all this stuff, all this info that's coming up. I got 87% battery left. And if you see this up here, right where my finger is, it looks like a satellite, like emitting something there. That shows how many satellites this is. Now, when I say satellites, this is very similar to a handheld GPS system. I know we use our phones to navigate now anyway, but whenever we always used to have handheld GPS devices, if you were sitting in your house, you would always go and put it up to your window to try to catch signal. It's very similar with this. It might not catch signal because I'm inside, although it'll try. But this, it has to get so many satellites in order for it to safely take off, because right now it's yellow. That means it's ready, but it's not. It still needs to catch signal. It hasn't caught any, actually. But right where that little satellite looking icon is, you have to have at least, I think, 12 or 13 satellites. So if I was to walk outside, it would come on and it would start picking it up. Because if there was no satellites honed in on it, any little bit of wind would just take it, and it would just blow it wherever it wants to. So that's something you have to kind of let it warm up and let it catch itself. So other things on here, you can see on the right-hand side here, that's the button to take pictures there. And then the button on top of it is the button to actually switch to video. And if you see these bars, all these different color bars, that's the collision sensors that I told you about earlier. See, it's red, yellow, green. And obviously it's sitting on the trailer right now, so it's going to detect that it's close to something. But that's the basics of that. Now on the bottom here, it says D and H. D, I mean, it's NA, obviously, because it's sitting here, but that's the distance away from me, total distance away. So that is forward or behind me. And it does that in feet. And it will take, if I went forward with it, it would say I'm, 10 feet or so away from me. But I know somebody's going to ask, how far away can it go and how high can it go? So the distance on this drone, it says in the book it can go 4 miles. That is an insane length of distance, I know. But the furthest I've flown away is about 3.5, and I thought that was plenty. And so then I came back home. And that is unobstructed view. So around here we have a lot of trees, hills, stuff like that. You have to have unobstructed view. You can't go behind buildings and trees and expect to get that good of signal. So that's the distance with that. So the H means height. Obviously it's at 0 because it's on the ground. And as far as altitude that you can go, the FAA says that you should stay below 400 feet. And the reason why is because of that low flying aircraft I told you about earlier. Low flying aircraft generally like to fly at that altitude. And so that is what the FAA recommends, that you stay below. The drone itself can actually go higher than that. But to be honest with you, going up 500, 600,000 feet, that there's not a whole lot of purpose in it, to be honest with you. So I usually stay probably 300 or below for what I'm looking at with crops and cows and stuff like that. So then other things on the bottom, HS, horizontal speed, VS, vertical speed, and all that stuff is all vital information that I need to know whenever I'm flying. And so whenever I'm flying, the battery level will slowly go down. There's this line on top that will slowly go to the left. And when it gets down to about 30% battery on the drone, it'll start beeping at me and say, hey, you probably should think about getting home. Doesn't matter where you're at, if you're hovering in front of your face or if you're 3 miles away. It'll say, hey, you should probably start getting home. And then if it gets down to about 20%, it will actually start going home by itself. it'll make a beeline right back at you. Because whenever I turn this drone on, it detected that, hey, this is the home point, as they call it. And if it gets lost, if I lose signal, it'll make a beeline back to home point. So that's the point of it, letting itself warm up and getting all that stuff ready. So all this stuff here is all vital information. There's other things like how many pictures are left on my SD card, stuff like that. So yeah, I got all that in there. The drone right now is on. You can see sitting here, see he's on, the camera's looking at me. Another thing on the drone here, you can see there's these lights on here. They're red now, and on the back they blink green. Those are anti-collision lights, same as an airplane, same as a cell phone tower has, because all aircraft that fly very high in the air and buildings that are very high in the air have to have anti-collision lights for low-flying aircraft. So that's the purpose of those. And so with this, on this controller here, this is the power button, of course. This is the go home button. So if I'm anywhere, it will actually make a beeline right back home if I click that, and then it will come right back home. So that's the basics of the drone that you all should know before you're going to fly. And I usually tell everybody, do not make your maiden voyage in your living room or your kitchen or wherever. So, I mean, if you have a machinery shed, that's a little better. But if the weather outside is decent and you can fly, that is what you would do as your maiden voyage. So, so with what I use this for agriculture for is that whenever the weather is good, of course, is that I have used it for checking on cattle. And when I've used it to check on cattle, you know, we have a large pasture, and if I see a cow that might be someone in distress, something like that, I might take the drone out and go look at it. So to tell you a quick story, the first time I flew my drone over our cattle, they were scared to death of it, because you probably heard earlier, it made that bees buzzing kind of a humming noise. And whenever I flew over them, the cows were scared to death. They booked it. They ran back into the building. They were just totally scared of the thing. The second time I flew it, I could have landed on their backs. They were so used to it. They were like, oh, there's that flying white thing again. Whoop-de-doo. And so they were kind of used to it after a while. And so that's one thing you can use a drone for in agriculture, is to use it to check on cattle. And another thing I've used it for, speaking of weather and rain and wind and stuff, is that after a major storm, I have taken this up and I have flown to look for downed trees. I have found plenty of downed trees, thankfully, because it sure beats walking there or taking the gator or wherever. So I would just take this, fly up over, and go look to find downed limbs. And I've found plenty of them. And so that's one useful tool that you can use this for. The main thing I use this for is crop scouting. And when I say crop scouting, I look at crops to see how they look from up in the air. And so if you saw in the footage I showed you earlier when I was up in the air, that you can see all of our fields from up there. So I can cover a lot of distance with this, as you can tell. And I can look at crops to see how they look, judging by their color and what the stand looks like, and even after a storm, see if the crops stayed looking pretty good. So I would look at crops a lot of times this time of year to see what our cover crops look like, and mainly later in the year, in say a month or two, I would look at our corn to see, you know, does that have that nice deep green color to it, and does that corn potentially need fertilizer, and is there a wet spot in this field, and stuff like that. So I have used it for that mainly, and that's something that a lot of people use a drone just like this for. There are other drones other than this, of course. There are drones that you can literally fit in the palm of your hand. This one obviously is a little too big for that, but there are also drones for agriculture that you can actually spray with. And when I say spray, I mean you can actually apply herbicides with it. And you would not use a drone like this. This one is a little bit too small. You would need a drone about the size of a small car or a gator to actually do that with. And it actually has a boom that goes across and you can actually spray with it. But this drone's not capable of that. Actually, I'd have to do a lot of things with it. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend using this drone to spray because you need to have it lift a certain amount of weight. This thing can only lift so much weight and itself, of course. So yeah, that's what drones are being used for. They can also interseed in between rows of crops with a drone. Not with one like this, of course, but the drone like that would be at least 3 times as big as this. Instead of having 4 props, it would have at least 8. And it would probably cost 20 times as much as this one did, to be honest with you. So that's something that is already here and coming down the pike too. So especially with agriculture and with drones in agriculture, drones are used in agriculture probably I would say in agriculture more than any other industry. Now there's other industries like real estate and construction and events and stuff like that you can use a drone for. But I would say where they are getting the most bang for their buck and getting the most use, and the technology is just growing exponentially, it is used in agriculture more than any other industry because of what I just told you what they use drones for. So those drones I mentioned, this one's very basic compared to those ones, but nonetheless, this is what I use. And I also like to promote agriculture with this. I have taken lots of neat videos of us farming out in the fields, doing various farm work out in the fields. I take videos of our cows jumping up and down and getting all scared of the drone and everything. So I like to showcase agriculture with this, other than using it for actual agriculture purposes. But there are so many different uses of this drone that I can use that I have not even mentioned. So yeah, this is something I've had a lot of fun using with, especially with what I do with the Pennsylvania Farm Bureau. I like to showcase that. So yeah, there's so many uses of drones. Like for instance, 3 weeks ago, I actually droned my cousin's wedding with this thing, and because he asked me to do it, and I said sure. So I did that with this, the same exact drone I used to scout crops with. So yeah, that's basically the gist of the drone here. I mean, I know I probably didn't cover everything because there is a lot to cover, trust me. But yeah, I guess I can start taking questions. I guess I'm sure there's stuff I have missed, but I'll be glad to take those right now if we can. So I don't know if Charlene or Cassidy, if one of you guys want to, how we're doing that, or but I'll be willing to take questions right now. So
Yeah, we have a few questions, and I'm just going to point out, if you think of any more, keep dropping them in the Q&A. So Aubrey asks, has your drone ever died while in use, or has it ever flown, home right back for you?
Yes, I have pressed the go home button a few times, simply because I lost signal and I was kind of like, oh no, where is it? So I pressed the go home button and it came up, said, you want to go home? Yes or no? Yes. So it came home. I have lost battery in it before. When I say lost battery, I mean like the battery drained too low, and I did have it crash one time. It was all my fault, but I let the battery go too low. But yes, that's why that bar I showed you earlier that has the battery life on it, that's something that you always absolutely have to be watching. So yeah, that's something you always need to watch constantly. And like for instance, if you're going to fly a very long distance away, that is something that you need to be mindful of, is what your battery life is. So that's something that you definitely need to know. So that was a good question.
Very good. Also, from Lucas, is the drone waterproof? And also, if it would happen to die, would the GPS help you find it?
I don't think the drone is waterproof. That's another theory I'm not going to test. But I mean, I guess it is to a point. I've flown it in rain, if that's what he's referring to. I guess my first thought was, if you go and plunged it into a lake, what would it do? But yeah, in the rain, it'll take rain pretty decently, I think. But I obviously I'm not going to go out there in a downpour with it. What was the other question? The other question to that?
If it did happen to die, would the GPS help you find it?
Yeah, there's an app on the on my controller here that's called Find My Drone, and it will take the last recorded GPS signal that the drone had. I personally have never had to do that, thankfully. Yes, there is a Find My Drone app, and it'll hopefully lead you to try to find it, simply because it'll do its last location. And there's a lot of tracking on this drone, and it can actually help you find it. So yeah, and for the most part, if your drone is losing battery and you roughly know where it landed, I don't think a gust of wind is gonna up and take it 100 feet away. So yeah, there is technology application that it can help you find it if you had that problem.
That's probably very good. Is the drone programmable, or can you only fly it in pilot mode? Do you have to always control it?
That's a good question. There's modes on it called intelligent flight modes, and that is when it flies by itself without you physically moving the joysticks. And there are several different intelligent flight modes. There is one that's called orbit, where if I focus like on myself, and it'll actually spin a circle around me, almost like a newscopter would. There's also follow me mode, where if I started walking, it will actually follow me. And like if you wanted to follow a car or a tractor or something, which I've done that, I click on the tractor and I'll say, follow it. And then it follows it, and it can slowly make a circle around it. So in theory, it's flying by itself. Now, whenever I showed you earlier, the drone was actually hovering right about eye level. I was not touching the joysticks. It just hovered right there without me touching it. So the drone is essentially flying itself, and I'm not touching it. But those intelligent flight modes, it will actually fly by itself. And you have to have GPS signal on it too. You can't do that inside of the machinery shed here, because you can't get signal in here. But when you're outside, it will actually get signal, and it can actually fly by itself. And there's some flight modes that actually follow the terrain, like it can follow itself up a mountain, and with the obstacle avoidance, it can actually stop itself in the middle of intelligent flight mode and actually go up above something. And it's kind of neat what it does. That way you have to have a lot of trust and faith in it, of course, but yeah, that technology is very capable of doing that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We have a third grader, Molly, and she asks, has it ever got stuck in a tree? And someone else asks similarly, has it ever damaged something on your farm?
No, I have not got it stuck in a tree, because it would not look as nice as it does. No, I have not, knock on wood, I have not damaged anything with this on my farm. I do know of a fellow farmer that had a drone similar to mine, and he actually ran it into the side of his combine. And obviously it's not going to hurt the combine, but I think he broke one of the propellers, and that's why we have extra propellers. So yeah, I have not had it damage anything or anybody, thankfully. Maybe just some plants, or a corn plant here or there, but no, I have not got it stuck in a tree. I know, since people know I do a lot of stuff with drones, everybody says, oh, I have a drone I got from Walmart for like 50, 60 bucks, and it's still up in the tree in the backyard. And like, oh, okay, yeah, it's been there since last fall. And I hear that a lot, that people say I got mine stuck in a tree or a bush or the neighbors or wherever. But yeah, whenever this drone cost me, I guess I didn't mention how much it cost, but this whole contraption with the copter, the controller, the box and everything, it cost me about $2,000. So when something costs that much, I kind of want to take care of it. So I try not to crash it into trees and combines and buildings and stuff like that. So yeah, just like anything else, you want to take care of what you have and to do that. So.
Very good. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. It would not be fun to replace. Mason asks, what kind of crops do you grow? And Kevin asks, do you fly your drone over your field while you're planting crops to make sure your rows are straight?
Like I said before, I have flown. I've taken a video of us planting. I don't do it to keep our rows straight necessarily, but I guess that's up to the driver, which is probably my dad or my brother. So, but yeah, I guess if I did see that their rows were a little bit crooked, I would probably tell them about it. But as far as the crops we grow corn, soybeans, oats, rye, and alfalfa. And so if the weather was a little better, I probably would show you where all those crops are, although this is planting season. So yeah, when all those crops get more mature and they start growing, I like to go and look to see if they need a little shot of extra fertilizer just by scouting with this. And so that's what I would use that for in a month and a half, 2 months or so. So that's what I would be using that for.
Very good. We have a couple questions about cows and other animals. Do you have other animals on your farm? And how much milk do you produce?
We milk about 40 Holstein cows, and as far as production wise, we're up in milk right now, actually. So actually, we're up in milk so much that our tank is overflowing. So which is a good problem to have. So yeah, we have been producing milk. Like I said, I'm a 6th generation dairy farmer. My farm has been in the family 154 years to be exact. So yeah, we've been dairy all that time. My grandfather used to have chickens back in the 80s. So yeah, we try to be diverse with our crop rotation and other things like that. So as far as the milk and milk production, we actually ship milk to Marburger Dairy, which a lot of you guys locally, like in Butler School District, they know of Marburgers, and they say it has the best chocolate milk, which it does. So yes, always buy local milk, no matter where you're at, buy local milk. And so yeah, we try to be diverse around here and even fly drones on occasion. So yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. We do have a couple of requests if the weather's okay, if we can see the drone again flying, and we can keep asking questions if we can do both too.
It stopped raining, thankfully, and it's a bit breezy. I'll try it. How about that? I'll see what happens.
Is it okay to keep asking questions, or do you need a
Sure,
second?
Sure. I'll probably turn my video off since I'll need both hands. So.
Okay. So Robert asks, how many hours a day do you work on your farm?
As many as I need to be honest. Yeah, I get up at about 7 a.m. and work till the work is done, whenever that may be. So I guess that's the best way to answer that. So like if it decided to rain a lot today, I might not do a whole lot. So, but if it doesn't rain, I might plant or do something, maybe fly my drone some more. I don't know. So yeah, it all depends on the weather, obviously.
Yeah, makes sense. Serenity does ask, do you use the drone every day that the weather is good?
I don't use the drone every day. More times a year, more on certain times of year than others, but I mean, I guess I could use it every day, but not all days are conducive to flying. Especially if it's really windy. But yeah, I don't use that every day. I'm about to take off here, so you can see where I'm at again. Let me turn this back on here. I hope you can see that all right there. All right, you see in the top where that little satellite looking thing is I showed you earlier, it says 10. That is,
Yes.
I guess, a sufficient amount of satellites. So you see it's green, it says ready to go GPS, so therefore it's ready to take off. So all right, I need to stop my video so I can take off. I need two hands to do that. So all righty. There it is again. Now there's a lot of buzzing going on. Every time I get really close to the drone, it starts yelling at me because, hey, get away from it, you know. So I'll go up a little higher in the air here so I can show you. So it's not as loud too. I've actually, we rent some ground off of neighbors, and I would fly over to the neighbors, you know, to check on crops. And then they would like call me and they'd say, did you just fly over my property? Yeah, why? Oh, because I heard that thing. Oh, okay, I didn't think you would hear that, but they did. So yeah. But yeah, that's kind of funny that, I mean, I can hear it now. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but if I flew, depending which way the wind's blowing, if I could fly a half-mile away and I could still faintly hear it. I mean, it's that loud. So, all right. Let's see here. I hope you can see that. You can see our fields there.
Yes,
Now, if you see there's all different kinds of colors. We do what is called contour strips. So like each of those is actually a different crop. So we do that with the hills that we have around here. If a lot of you guys know where my farm is, if you see that road where my finger is, that is State Route 356. We live right off 356. Let me pan this way. That's our driveway there, if you can see that. So that's what we're looking at here. So, all right, I'm gonna move a little bit here to show you a nice aerial shot of farm. Usually if I am going to do an aerial shot of somebody's farm, I would do a nice shot. Like we have aerial shots of our farm clear back to the 50s. And obviously it looks way different back then than it does now. And so does the camera quality. So, all right. So that's a good shot there. So, all right. You can see that there. I don't know if you can see me. I'm a little dot. I'm like right here. If you see the gator, you can see we have some equipment out. That's our house right there. There's our milking barn. Right. Come on, focus right there. Then there's our two silos right there. That machinery shed right there is where I was standing. Got other machinery sheds. So that's the basics of our buildings right there. So this is a typical shot I would take of a farm, an aerial shot. If you go to any farm, doesn't matter if it's a dairy, crop farm, beef farm, they always have a nice aerial shot. You know, a lot of them have an aerial shot from 1980 or 90 or wherever. We have a shot, I think, pretty much of every decade back to the 50s. But with my drone like this, I can go up whenever I see fit, if everything looks good, the crops look good, the buildings look all right, then I can fly up and take a nice aerial shot. So yeah, that's, and all the ground that you see around it, we farm that. So we're kind of in a big hole right there, if you will. So yeah, that's my farm in a nutshell, right there from a drone's perspective. So I don't know if there's any more questions anybody wants to ask. I know
we do. Oh, go ahead.
I know we don't have a whole lot of time left, but I can keep going if you want me to.
Yeah, we have a couple more. Can you use the drone at night to like see if deer or other wildlife are eating your crops or anything else?
I have flown my drone at night. It's kind of different to fly at night because a lot of the obstacle avoidance, it doesn't work real well whenever it's really dark, and you almost have to turn the brightness up because it can see pole lights, it can see headlights, it can see the lights on in your car and stuff like that. But it's different flying at night. I know a few years ago the FAA said that no drones should be allowed to fly at night. Well, they recently have switched that, I believe. So there's other cameras a drone could use at night, like infrared, NDVI, stuff like that, like kind of like similar to a police helicopter they would use something like that. So yeah, I have flown at night many times, actually, to catch videos of fireworks, because those make really nice videos. As long as the smoke doesn't come at you, they can make really nice videos. So yeah, you can fly a drone at night. Obviously, your vision is not the greatest at times, so you have to really know where you're at. But yeah, you can fly at night. And as far as looking for deer, I guess you could. I have found deer on accident from the woods that are surrounding us. I have seen deer, and then as soon as they hear the buzzing of that drone, they take off back into the woods. So I have had deer stand there and kind of stare at me and kind of look at the drone and be like, "What's that thing?" and then just book it the other way. So yeah, that's my experience with flying at night and with wild animals.
Interesting. So we'll do one more question, and I do want to tell the attendees we will collect any that are left over, and then William can answer those too. But what would happen if the camera lens cracks? Does it affect the screen on the controller too?
I don't think it would affect the actual screen on the controller. No, I mean, obviously it would affect the camera, but if you had that crack, most likely you crashed. So yeah, that's something you have to get worked on, of course. But I know the camera on that drone, it is made to come off, to detach. So like if something did happen to that camera, I could, in theory, take it off and put a new one on. I haven't had to do that yet, but you can do that. But I don't think it would affect the controller itself. It would probably do something to it, of course, but I don't think it would actually affect the actual controller itself. So yeah, I hope that doesn't happen to me anytime soon. So
we hope not either. So with that, like I said, we will gather those up. There are 2 surveys in the chat box. Please make sure you take those, especially the one if you're trying to earn your badge for your portfolio. That's important. But you all will get an email, and we are recording this, so you can go back and watch, and we will send that out as well tomorrow. So be sure to check your email. So with that, thank you so much, William, for doing this. Thank you, Dr. Volkman, and everyone else who was involved with this. We really appreciate it. And thank you so much for attending.
Thank you.